The November 6th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in order. First item on the agenda is the consideration of the minutes from the October 16th meeting. Do you have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from October the 16th. Are there comments or questions? Hearing none, voting please. Minutes are approved. The next item is the consent docket.
I move the consent docket subject to individual consideration.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket subject to individual consideration. Are there matters to be talked about separately?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on 3, V, as in Victor. And this is an agreement to split the cost of something with another job. What was the split? Was it 50-50, 80-20?
I think it's 50-50 up to $100,000 on their part. With a cap of $100,000, we believe that the project will come in pretty reasonably. And I'm glad you asked me that because it's an unusual situation. We have some changes that need to be made. Other development had made some additional improvements to pipes in the area that allowed us to come up with a different solution to adjust the pressure zone. The solution saved the developer expenses for a pipeline for in-house repressurization for the third floor of their structure. So it worked out very. We're real pleased to have come up with a creative solution.
Any other matters on the consent docket to be discussed separately? Hearing, have a motion and a second to approve. Voting, please. Consent docket's approved. The next item is the concurrence docket.
I would move the concurrence docket subject to individual consideration.
Have a motion and a second to approve the concurrence docket. Are there matters to discuss on the concurrence docket? Hearing none, voting please. Concurrence docket's approved. Next item. Items for individual consideration. The first item is a resolution concerning the moving the sporting clay shooting operation from southwest or southeast 149th. We've made a commitment at some time ago to do that, and for various reasons we've not been able to complete it. And this memorandum is really, or this resolution is really to authorize the general manager to do whatever is necessary to get that moving. It's becoming more and more of a problem. People are less and less satisfied with what we've done to move it, and so we're just trying to put some emphasis behind it.
Do we have any alternate sites in mind at this point?
Yes. We are working with, as I'm sure you know, the area near Tinker Air Force Base that on property that we own is restricted in its use. We have been working with Tinker's land planners about possible additional options. We attempted to buy a property and that didn't come through. So at this time we're looking at possible relocation. The reason we want to tell you about this is we're looking at possible relocation of some of our lessees to make space at a different location that's leased for another purpose. And that's kind of our last ditch. We are very pleased with the quality of the business, with the quality of the property maintenance. I don't want you to think in any way we would pursue this other than we have a problem that can't resolve itself with neighbors.
We incur expenses in this process because moving other pieces. If we incur an expense in this project, for instance, lease costs, additional land, moving leases around, will the applicant pay for it, or the
I think yet to be determined, Councilman, and I think that has to be a part of what staff brings to you as well.
I would assume, though, that there's probably going to be some cost shared on both sides of the equation.
That's how I envision it. There's going to be some cost sharing. The terms of the lease, I think, would require us to pay for a termination. I think this is really a mutual thing, and so I think both we're going to, that's how I look at it now. But that's all to be determined once we find a site that we're going to move it to. It'll have a lot to do with what's available at that site. If there is a structure there at the site that could be utilized, that can make it, that can certainly moderate what the cost of making the move.
When we pick a new site, when we select a new site, we take a shotgun out there and shoot it around so we can get some site measurements.
But this, I don't want anybody to misunderstand, this site is perfectly legal under the terms of the city ordinances. I mean, we did everything ahead of time that needed to be done for this site. It just is, there are just so many people that live close to it that are just so upset about it. I think it's just a mutual decision between the trust and between the operator that probably we'd all be better off finding another site. But I don't think there's anything legally wrong with the site where we have it. Do you have a motion on the resolution?
Second.
Have a motion and a second on the resolution. Further discussion? Voting please, the resolution is passed. The next item is a executive session, and I think we decided that we don't need an executive session today.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
Second.
A motion to strike the executive session. Voting please. Executive session is stricken. Next item from trustees.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear Marcia's comments on the water supply. We've had some continuing drought in terms of our watershed areas.
The drought continues, as you know, and our two wettest months of the year for the fall are September and October. The lake levels are down about 12 feet at Lake Hefner. Lake Draper is raising slightly. Lake Canton is actually also getting some water today. We're excited about that, but it remains at about 45% of capacity. My personal plan is to continue to pump water hard from McGee Creek Reservoir and Lake Atoka into Oklahoma City while we pursue, while we monitor groundwater over the winter for wettest time to take water from Lake Canton. Mm-hmm. Ideally, the forecast is for normal rain. Normal rain means it'll be a long time to catch up. And as you know, normal rain could be a flood that refills the lakes. We're going to try to balance taking water with our actual needs. We believe if we took water from Lake Canton now that on the order of 50 or 60% would arrive, and in the drought conditions, I feel like we should postpone as long as possible. We know it's a horrible impact on folks who love being at Lake Hefner at this time of year. I regret that.
How much notice do we have to give Lake Canton before we take water from it?
We have to convene a meeting of the Canton Lake Advisory Committee to discuss the timing.
Because there's some rain forecast this weekend in the city area. I don't know if it's going to be that part of the state or not.
We'll make certain that we are in a position to be able to take water should we get more groundwater or alluvial aquifer recharge along North Canadian. We'll proceed with that.
What's the lake level at Canton right now?
45.
It is 10 feet low, which is it's holding about 54,000 acre feet. So that would mean the minimum acre footage in the lake is 17,000. To give you an idea, that gives us about 34,000 available to take.
When we have Lake Hefner down 12 feet, does that pretty much preclude any recreational use of the lake? Fishing ought to be better because they have less water to hide in. So,
I think if you wade in to fish, that might. But as you know, most of our facilities are fixed location, so that as the ground area has increased in the lake, the boat docks are unusable at this point. The permanent boat docks, most of the fishing piers are really unusable at this time.
What does 10 feet below the level at Canton do to the ability to use Canton?
The storage agreement for Lake Canton sets aside a specific volume to be held in the lake at all times, and that's about 17,000 acre feet. It's not, it's in that lake, it's about volume. We are impacting at Lake Canton as well, the recreational uses, but recreational uses throughout the western part of the state are being impacted by the drought, significantly impacted. We have a couple of cities who are in pretty significantly desperate shape for water. So in that respect, we're proud that we're in better shape, but it is a drought. We're also working on a contract to bring to the Water Trust at its first meeting in December, I believe, with the OSU Extension Service to begin putting out comprehensive messages and training about conservative use of water, recognizing that this drought could continue.
Do we provide any meaningful amount of water to the oil companies to use in their hydraulic fracturing processes?
We do not.
Good.
Well, I think this is probably a good, there's an old adage about you don't ever let a crisis go without making the best of it. And I think we really do need to do something about a conservation system within our own system, whether we've got a full lake or not. The time is past when we can just call down water from either west or east. We've got to be more careful with it, I think. So I think that's a good time to be talking about that.
Our goal is to have the information available and getting it out in advance of when people are planting, and to hit the local markets such as the various home and garden shows to help make certain that we're getting the point across. It's complicated. I have a yard, and it's a big, complicated change potentially for us. So.
Okay. Any further comments from trustees? Hearing none, next item is the general manager's reports.
Mr. Chairman, for you today we have your pro forma through September 30th of this year. Financially, of course, again, we had a dry summer. We spent a fair portion of that water income on expenses for operation, but are in all regards in good shape from an income standpoint on both water and sewer. Sewer expenses continue to be down because the sewers are pretty dry. Water expenses we continue to be pumping more than the average for this time of year by about 10 million gallons a day.
Does the lake level at Hefner affect our ability to pump water out of it? Obviously, if it gets down below the pump, it does. But
Not yet. We have some contingency plans. One of the things we are doing operationally is we've adjusted the water system so we take the minimum amount of water that we can from Hefner. That tends to be about 30 million gallons a day. It's about the minimum we can take. The rest we're trying to make up from Lake Draper. So the volume, today we're pumping 100 million gallons. Today, Hefner will probably be 35 or 40 million gallons, while Draper will be 65 to 60 million gallons. And we're working on ways to continue to condense the Hefner service area. With the facilities we have in place, you saw a presentation a couple of weeks ago about from Smith Roberts, Baldus Water, and Carollo about other ways we'll be able to condense the program, and Mr. Simiandi is pursuing those projects.
thank you.
Any other questions about the general manager's reports? I believe that concludes the agenda. Oh, actually, it doesn't. We have citizens to be heard. Is there anyone who wants to speak to us? No one? All these people? Nobody wants to talk? Hearing no citizens to be heard, we are adjourned. Thank you.